You have an opportunity to plan, whether it's with Trustimil or with an attorney or even another online provider. Like, you as a consumer in this world, you have a choice to make. You could set up an estate plan, you could set up a trust-based plan, retitle all the assets into the name of the trust, which generally will avoid probate. And I've talked to a lot of people, surprisingly, that had parents who did all that. They had a buttoned up estate plan. They reviewed it every couple of years. When mom or dad at the end of their life in their 70s, 80s, or 90s did pass, it was fairly smooth. It gives the kids or gives the family proper time to grieve. Again, you can't just like move on quickly from it. You move forward with it on your shoulders or on your mind forever. And like, to have that estate plan buttoned up takes a lot of logistics and work off the plate of your loved ones. So I've always thought of estate planning as a more selfless act. You don't really do it for yourself, you're dead, but you do it for your loved ones. It's a way to honor them when you're not here anymore. And I wish more people would be proactive.
Welcome to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. If you ever asked, how do I protect myself and those I love if something unexpected happened to me? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Niki Weiss, and together we'll explore how to protect yourself in a world where both your physical and digital legacy leave a lasting impact. And welcome back to another episode of the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. And today I have Cody here. Cody is the founder of Trust and Will. And Cody, we met before we met, I knew about Trust and Will for the last several years. You've been on the map, making headway. So please share your story with our audience.
Yeah, thanks, Niki. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. So my name is Cody Barbo. I'm an entrepreneur from Dallas, Texas, and I'm currently the founder and CEO of Trustimil. We're the nation's leading estate planning platform, helping everyday families come to our website, trustimil.com, and choose a will-based or trust-based estate plan, make it easy, affordable, high-touch customer support. And maybe you've seen our commercials, heard our ads, seen us in your banking or credit card app, and it's been an honor of my lifetime and career to be building this company 7 years in with the team.
7 years. And this is not your first startup company either.
Number 3, second venture-backed business, and they've all been hard. It's still hard.
But what was it about this model? I mean, how old were you when you came up with this idea?
35 now, so like late 20s when started thinking about this. And I've got co-founders and we've got a team that, they've been a part of this since the beginning. The personal reason I didn't think I would be doing this for half my career now, but I was getting married in late 2017 and my wife and I had never talked about money and taxes and insurance and let alone a basic will. And, she had lost her dad when we had started dating and didn't have an estate plan, saw the pain of going through probate for her, the brother and the stepmom with a house and other assets. And, for years, it took a long time and there's really no closure. Like when you lose someone, there's never closure. You kind of have to move forward with it. You can't move on from it. And I felt there was an opportunity to basically do something for ourselves. And I just didn't know any better. So I Googled estate planning in San Diego. We lived in San Diego at the time and called one attorney. He quotes me $3,000. I call another attorney who quotes me $5,000. I asked the guy who quotes me $5,000, well, what's better about your package and plan if it's $2,000 more? And he just goes, that's my rate. It's like paying for the same car more for the same car at a different dealership. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So naturally look online for online solutions, more of a TurboTax like look and flow. And LegalZoom comes up and they're fine, but like they're not an estate planning company. And that's really what I was looking for. What is out there that's modern, really kind of cutting edge from technology and user experience? And I didn't see anything. And that was such a validator for myself, Daniel, and Brian, the 3 co-founders. So I called us the elder millennials, still are, I guess, even though we're closer to 40 now. And the reality that, we're now all married, we are homeowners, we've got kids, we've got aging parents, we've experienced the ups and downs of life just in the last 7 years. So like have a really personal connection to what we are building at Trustimil. But even in the early days, the real frustration was a huge gap in education. People don't know anything about estate planning generally. And then number 2 is, where do you go to get this started? Do you go online? Do you go to an attorney? And then there's just this total ambiguity of costs. Is it cheap? Is it expensive? If you go cheap, is it going to be less of a quality set of documents? If you go super expensive, did you overpay versus if you just have simple needs? And I was like, how do you consumerize an industry that has been safeguarded by attorneys? Not in a bad way, but it's like you have to have all these credentials and all this education around estate planning when everyday families don't have the time for it. They've got lives, they've got careers. So that was really the goal: build a brand, build education, build a phenomenal, best-in-class product that's simple and intuitive, but also affordable for people to be able to get this done and come back and make updates.
I mean, you brought up one of the significant reasons why people avoid, well, you brought up a few of them, which is education. So the complexity of it, and it is complex, but the
Yeah.
other is cost. And I think just those two pieces right there, the complexity and cost, is what stop people from moving forward into building out a comprehensive estate plan.
You're,
And
talking,
you
you're
break
looking at
it down.
Yeah, you take like the average household income, you're looking at like 5 to 10% of your annual income on an estate plan. You're going to put that towards your mortgage. You're going to put it towards your kids. You're going to put it towards literally everything else first. So it's like, how do you remove the cost barrier? And technology can do that. But the education barrier, and bigger than even education, the procrastination barrier. People don't want to think about their own death. They don't want to deal with the realities of life and the challenges that come with death, divorce, a health diagnosis. Like, we anchor on the happy reasons, but try not to shy away from the sad, more raw reasons people need to do this.
I mean, it's those which we talk a lot about within the My Final Playbook, which is the 10 reasons people avoid building out that comprehensive end of life plan, which is, you mentioned. So based on your experience in the last decade, procrastination, it's huge.
Yeah.
How does Trust and Will break through that procrastination for your users?
Yeah, even in the early days when we didn't have a lot of money and resources, I can see the continuity today looking back on it. Our goal is just be present and consistent with great content. So, even our most looked at articles on our Learn Center, where we have hundreds of articles now of best in class educational content. At the time, it was like, what is a will? What is a trust? What's the difference between a trust and a will? What is probate? And helping people understand the repercussions if you don't do this. If you die without an estate plan, you die intestate, you go to probate. How long does probate take? What are the costs involved with probate? How much goes to the government or to the courts when it should be in the pockets of your family? So when we looked at it through that kind of full life cycle from cradle to grave, it gave us a different perspective. Even today, we'll spend millions and millions of dollars on TV advertisements. We're on radio. We're the first or second search result for 70,000 key search terms. We partner with over 200 financial institutions as a branded estate planning partner. We work with 17,000 financial advisors as a branded estate planning partner. It all comes back to that estate planning 101 workshop, driving people towards the educational pages on the site, putting together webinars for our partners and their customers and clients. It's like as consumer friendly of language as we can use to deliver why it matters. That's what gets people over the hump to get started, because they think that it's very time consuming. It's going to take them weeks or months, not 30 to 45 minutes. They think that you have to have an attorney present. You don't. You can go from start to finish on our platform in literally 30 to 45 minutes on your own. It's a very intuitive software like a TurboTax. But if you want to talk to a human, we've got 5 days of human support. We've got a national estate planning attorney network if you want to have an attorney review your estate plan or you want to talk to an expert. So we try to give people all these options of paths to go down, but the ultimate goal is to remove the friction and barriers that historically have prevented people from doing this or putting it off for very long.
So I wanted to share with you that I have a client of mine that actually was able to access, I guess it was part of their employee benefits, to have a Trust and Will account, and he had it for years.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until he started working with me that he realized, like, oh, I actually can do this on my own. But he, again, was having that emotional blocker. And this is a 50-something-year-old with, his kids were over 18 at this point.
Yeah.
So he had access to the tool and he knew he needed a plan because he was of that age. And it was still, until we started talking about it, had that sense of, okay, just breaking it down step by step. Intestate, just to clarify the impact of that risk of dying without a will in intestate.
Yeah.
Your experience having conversations with people.
Yeah, probate's one of these things that most people don't even know what it is unless they've experienced it through a family member.
Right? It's like,
yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like so California, his father-in-law, when he passed in California, but he had assets in Texas. Now you have 2 different states where he passed, where the assets were held. In general, the more populated the state, the longer the probate process will take. So like in California, I think it's up to 2 years now. I mean, the courts are still backlogged from COVID years. It's crazy. And then the cost, you have in California, I think the number is 184,000 roughly in assets. If you're above that, you go to probate. If you're below that threshold, there's a slightly faster process. But if you're a homeowner, or even if you own a condo, like a studio condo in California, it's probably worth more than 200,000. And you have to go through this really arcane process that you're grieving the loss of a loved one. Like it was for my wife, it was her father. But I've seen this even with my friends that have lost siblings or they've lost friends that are younger too. It's like you go through this really time consuming process. You're grieving and you're expected to be a financial and tax professional. You almost have to be like a forensic accountant. And it's a really long process. There's no explanation of exactly how long. I call it the Domino's pizza tracker. There's no Domino's pizza tracker for probate. If you've ever ordered Domino's pizza delivery, they have a little pizza tracker. Sorry to use it. I had to use a little fun example talking about death.
I mean, the idea is like there's on the
Yeah.
Domino's pizza app is that you're basically tracking your pizza being
Yeah, or DoorDash. Use like a
happening.
DoorDash or Uber. It's like you hit order from your DoorDash or Uber Eats. You're waiting for it to get to your house. Like there's no version of that for probate. And we, even in our business, like we saw that as an opportunity. We actually bought a company a few years ago called Easy Probate and built a relationship with the founder. He had built the nation's first direct to consumer probate business. We felt we could accelerate their business, bring their team over with our brand, our partnership reach, and our commitment to customer. We had an opportunity to accelerate. So with Easy Probate under the Trustable umbrella as Trustable Probate, we've done over 4,000 settlements in 30 states. So we're in all 50 states for planning, but in probate, we're doing it in 30 states. And it was an incredible learning experience for us, understanding what these families were going through. Some people were at peace, having lost usually mom or dad or a loved one. Some people, all the stages of grief, anger, anxiety, deep, deep depression. And it was really just like you felt every single time they came through our doors, we had to take care of them.
Support them.
Good.
I mean,
And sometimes, yeah, good.
No, I was just going to ask, you hit an emotional chord here, right? It's amazing how we're dealing with a very legal process, but the intertwine of emotions that are involved with it's hard to separate. So it's the empathy that's needed from your professionals to support people through the process.
They've done such a fantastic job. And it's interesting too. It's given me, just as a human, not just as CEO of this company, a perspective where like probate generally sucks. I don't think I've talked to anybody who's like, yeah, probate was great. No one has ever said that, I don't think, in history. But maybe in a less populated, I'm going to choose Wyoming, not to poke fun at them, but like less populated state, it's a fairly efficient process. It's not fun, but efficient. You have an opportunity to plan, whether it's with Trustable or with an attorney or even another online provider. Like you as a consumer in this world, you have a choice to make. You could set up an estate plan. You could set up a trust-based plan, retitle all the assets into the name of the trust, which generally will avoid probate. And I've talked to a lot of people, surprisingly, that had parents who did all that. They had a buttoned up estate plan. They reviewed it every couple of years. When mom or dad at the end of their life in their 70s, 80s, or 90s did pass, it was fairly smooth. It gives the kids or gives the family proper time to grieve. Again, you can't just like move on quickly from it. You move forward with it on your shoulders or on your mind forever. And like to have that estate plan buttoned up takes a lot of logistics and work off the plate of your loved ones. So I've always thought of estate planning as a more selfless act. You don't really do it for yourself, you're dead, but you do it for your loved ones. It's a way to honor them when you're not here anymore. And I wish more people would be proactive. So that's the whole reason why we started this company, why we've scaled the company. We've helped hundreds of thousands of families do this much earlier in their lives, or folks that would have never done it. They couldn't afford the attorney. They didn't know to do it, where to go. The team is really proud to be here every day working hard.
And again, your team is not just paper pushers. It really is empathetic professionals that are able to support people, knowing that this is a very emotional time to go through the legal process of preparing for your end of life. So you've been in the industry for a while. From a technology standpoint, could you envision where we are today with AI and how it's going to impact how we do estate planning?
Yeah, when I think back to the early days, the first few years as a startup, you're just trying to survive. Like, what does it take to get to the next year, the next milestone? There was 5 of us in a single office at a co-working space the first year. We had just rolled out a last will and testament in Texas and California. That's where all of my network was. We have co-founder Brian. He and I went to school at San Diego State, and we both grew up in California. All of our friends are there. And then Daniel, our other co-founder, he grew up in Chicago area, but he went to school Baylor. And we joke with Daniel that all of his Baylor friends were like married and like 3 kids before 30. Brian and I's California friends were like maybe married by 30. But we were like, we need to tap into that network. And any of our friends who had kids were like pretty likely target to at least be a beta customer, beta tester. And then we asked a lot of our parents, like our friends' parents who either had this or didn't, or if they had an estate plan that they wanted to update. But it was really the first year is just getting the last will and testament to as many states as we could, because it's a state specific process. We did hire an estate attorney, Patrick Hicks, right at the start of the journey, who had been practicing for over 10 years, wanted to make sure that we were rolling this out appropriately. And then in 2019, when we raised our seed round, that's when we had brought our revocable trust to California and Texas to start, and then scaled that. So the first 2 full years was really just getting our product in as many states as we could. We were in 48 states. North Carolina and Louisiana were the last 2 because they have some wonky rules and requirements. So the thing that was interesting then is that you had to execute the documents offline. Like you had an online experience, and then you have to sign these documents, notarize them, witness them offline at like your bank, or you have a notary come to your house, or some people's corporate office, they have an in-house notary. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, how can you not just DocuSign these? The technology is used in literally every other industry, in finance and law, just not estate planning law. And we saw an opportunity to do the first electronic will in US history in Nevada. It's ironic that I'm here in Nevada when we record this podcast, but in January, I think it was January 1st, 2019, we did the first electronic will in US history in the state of Nevada. It was a digital signature, digital notary experience. And we've made pretty good headway over the last 5 years, 6 years now, that there's now 13 states plus DC that allow for electronic execution of wills. There's 2 states, soon to be 3, that allow for all estate planning documents to be signed digitally. And these are our bills. We are sponsoring bills. We are sending our team to state capitals to meet with legislators to basically give them the reasoning as to why this should exist. You use DocuSign and digital signatures in every other aspect of your life and your career, profession. Why can't we do this for estate planning? Because I've had these horror stories, I mean it, where people are literally about to die. They're trying to get a loved one to sign
I have
their
a couple clients.
and they
literally trying to get it done. I mean, the notary is at the hospital bedside.
Yeah. And they pass before they can execute the docs. It's crazy. That should never be the case. So, you know, we're hopeful that in the coming years with our budget, we can make all 50 states happen for digital execution of documents. So you can have this continuity when you finish your trust mill online experience. We work with great partners to help with the execution piece, but it's basically a handoff to them to experience the signing ceremony online versus offline. So that's a huge opportunity. But to go back to your AI question, we use a ton of AI at Trust Mill. I mean, you got to think we've got hundreds of thousands of members that have given us all this data. And we want to use that AI to help them to drive a better experience. So we rolled out this new thing called Plan Strength, which you can think of like a credit score for your estate plan. So we look at everything you've put in. It's all for the user. It's not for our team to benefit from. But if I log into my Trustable dashboard and I haven't signed my documents, I haven't funded my trust, I have pretty high risk exposure for my family trust. I created it, I paid for it, I filled out all the information. But if I haven't executed the documents, I haven't retitled the house or retitled the finance accounts into the name of the trust, the house is going to probate. Like all that work and money spent was worthless. And this is a pain point even for people that go spend thousands of dollars with attorneys. A very good estate planning attorney, they'll do the funding with you, or sometimes your wealth manager will do it with you or for you. But most families, I ask the question if they have a family trust, I'm like, when did you create it? Did you sign it? Did you notarize it? Did you fund the trust? If I look up in the county that you live in that your home is in the trust, will it actually be in the trust, or do I need to remind you how to go do it? We can help with that. So it's really common. And I think that's where we're trying to not just educate people, get them into a will-based plan or even into a trust-based plan, getting them to fund the trust, update the estate plan on an annual cadence or anytime life events are happening. So the Plan Strength is giving a goal setting opportunity to the end consumer so they can have, if they're planning to grow their family, move to another state, or to buy a house, maybe they're a renter, then they're going to be a homeowner soon. This is like my life the last 6 years. Got married, have 2 kids now, bought a home, moved from California to Texas, have a dog, have aging parents, started a company. And every year I try to look back and what changes can I make? And I had a kid, my second kiddo last year, logged into the website, made it guardians for my daughter, the same as for my son. And then we have a mobile notary service. So I was able to print the docs at home. I had a notary and witnesses at the house in 3 hours. It was like a slick experience. And I was like, how do we make that more accessible for everybody? So with AI in particular, it's really driving more value for the consumer, that you can create the estate plan faster and you don't have to remember as much in terms of reminding When do I update it? Why do I update it? That's what the plan strength is going to do, that intelligence. And it's going to proactively reach out to the end. We call them members, but the customer, and give them an email trigger or an in-app notification that's like, hey, you need to still do these tasks. And until you do, your estate is at risk or exposure to going to probate.
And I think you're hitting a point, which is trying to get people to streamline the process.
Yeah.
But the biggest challenge is getting them to realize that they need this process, that there is a risk, that pre-risk assessment. I don't know if that's something that your team does, your platform does for users.
We do. We have, if you go to the website, we have this little quiz. We call it a quiz. It's like, we have a bunch of icons. You want to avoid probate. You have aging loved ones. You have minor children. You have assets over 150,000. But we have like 10, 12 icons you can click on that helps direct you towards which plan is better for you. It's the will plan versus the trust plan. And again, the real difference, for the audience that's less familiar, is like the revocable living trust. The primary reason people will set it up is that a will still goes to probate. So the revocable living trust, you're going to retitle your assets. So for most families, the largest asset they own is the home they live in, or they have some core financial and investment accounts. So my personal family home is in our family trust. Our financial accounts, the bank, we work with JPM, they're in the family trust name. It just takes a little bit of extra time and steps. We have a trust funding guide that walks people through this. The thing that we also love about a trust, it provides more privacy around your assets. Whereas probate, if you die with a will or without an estate plan, you go through probate, it becomes public record. So a lot of families are opting for more privacy through the revocable trust. And we deliver that at a couple $100s. It's not an expensive multi-$1,000 experience that most people would go through with an attorney.
And just that alone, making it streamlined and educational. So if we've got a listener who's interested in taking that next step, because they know they need a will or trust, or they haven't, the other common is that, I did a will, it was 20 years ago when their kids were, and that, I mean, that's
where is it? That's my first question. Where is it? Do you know where it's located? And has anything changed? Yeah.
Because in building out a final playbook, we talk about a crucial doc box, and now working with both digital and physical, right? So we've talked about Presidio, for example, like having that digital vault to have both a physical and digital system to create a physical hybrid system. So for your potential user, potential client, what should they, before they get to your website, what are some things that they should start to gather? Information, like should they already know who they want to be their executor? Because I find in talking to my clients, just choosing an executor or a trustee or power of attorney tends to be an emotional blocker.
Sure. I think that guardians for children, healthcare agent, DNR, do you want the plug pulled on you? It's the factual data of creating the estate plan. That's the easy part. So you can go through Trustable. I encourage like my friends, if I have a friend, I'm like, go through like they call it the fast forward edition, where you don't have to think about the emotional hooks or triggers. You're just putting in the factual information first. You can get through that literally in 10, 15 minutes. It's pretty effective, pretty quick. And then if you're married, especially if you have minor children, like even my own wife, I talk her ear off about the business of Trust Mill almost every day. But when we created it we updated the estate plan when our daughter was born 5 years ago, I was surprised at the emotional reaction she had when we were talking through guardians for our daughter. And even the final arrangements, do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? We have a free form note that's like, what's your final message to your loved ones? That's, like you read out at a celebration of life or a funeral. And it was really emotional for her. I was taken aback by it because I didn't expect that. For me, we were pretty aligned on guardians. It was basically my parents and her stepmom. It was very easy to decide. They're here, they're around still, but they're getting older. And then eventually our siblings would be kind of round two, and then maybe close friends, tertiary after, parents and siblings. But when it came to final arrangement, I just assumed cremation would be fine. My wife's like, nope, you're getting buried in the ground next to me. And I was like, all right, yes, ma'am. And I know my place and I'm happy with it. And it was just one of those things that, you don't expect to have a more emotional conversation until you're going through it yourself. But for any listeners, it really is, when people come to our website, we assume you know nothing about estate planning. That's a good thing. We want to give you the best first impression of what this is, what's involved, and how to make it specific and tailored to you, your life, and your situation. People come to us for really awesome things. They just got married. They just had their first baby. They just bought their first house, or on the upswing of life. People who came to us because they lost someone. They got a terminal diagnosis. We had stage 4 cancer person come through, and they're like, you know what? Like, I wouldn't have gone to the attorney. I'm happy that Trust Mill exists. Or to your point, we have people that haven't touched their estate plan in 20, 30 years. It's maybe even written on a typewriter or like an old 3-ring binder in the closet somewhere.
Right.
We make it really easy for any family to update their will. It's effectively, once you create the new will-based plan, it's going to replace the old one. Also keep the old copy just in case. And then for a trust-based plan, you're doing a trust restatement. That's what my own parents did. They'd done their estate plan with an attorney 10 plus years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I remember when I saw it for the first time, it was written as if my brother and I were still minors. So I'm 35. So yeah, it's been a long time, almost 20 years. And then they updated it. They followed us out to Texas. They updated it with Trust Mill. My mom talked to our support team. She talked to one of our Texas attorneys. She talked to me about it. And we have a connected feature. So my estate plan shows up in my mom's login and account, and her and my dad's estate plan shows up in my account. If anything happens to them, I can gain access to it. Or if anything happens to me, my wife and my mom have access to my estate plan. So it's a really nice little collaborative experience that we built to try to make this more of a multi-generational platform for the sandwich generation who's also maybe taking care of their aging loved ones.
And you mentioned it. I mean, this is really designed, it's a platform. So there's technology involved. And some of that older generation, they're not so comfortable with it.
No.
Where do you see the future of this in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, we want to be the leading company in estate planning, like the nation's leading brand platform. We want to be the default for consumers, for professionals, meaning we want to work with as many financial advisors, if not all of them. We want to work with plan giving officers and estate attorneys themselves. We work with a lot today. We want to work with all of them. And even the institutional partners that we have. We want to be the default co-branded partner for estate planning. But I think that estate planning in the future really becomes more behind the scenes. Once you set it up initially, especially with AI, the idea that you could just live your life and we know when things are happening. You opened a new account, bought a new home, or got a vacation or rental property. Your kids went from minors to adults, getting them their healthcare proxies. And even the transition of wealth, if you've got your parents on Trust Mill and everything's buttoned up, how can we transition that estate quicker, faster, easier? So distributions happen to you and your siblings in real time. I mean, there's such an incredible future ahead of us. So that's why we're building Trust Mill. It's to make this kind of future of estate planning a completely new experience for people to live their lives, create their legacy, and then mechanically speaking, the estate plan works as it was intended based on the decisions that you put in it. So really excited that we get to build this. We've got almost 100 people at Trust Mill working hard every day to make this a reality. And it's nothing slowing us down right now. So
no. And what I love about your product is similar to live fully, die ready. That is the message that at Devo we're trying to build, and to be working with partners like yourself and get that message out. People have avoided death and dying in the conversation because it's taboo. And you and I are both in the same team to say, no, it's about empowerment. It's about having that peace of mind for those that you leave behind. As long as you step into this, there's some work that's involved, right? You have to have the courage and the whereabouts to make the decisions. But your tool, your platform really does enable and empower people to do that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I appreciate it. So if people have additional questions or information, best place to find you.
Yeah, well, trustamill.com. If you want to chat with our team, you're going to laugh. We've got this AI chatbot named Willie, who's extremely effective in helping customers. But we do have 5 days of human support. If you want to talk to Jason, Anna Marie, we've got a great team. We've got a handful of folks Monday through Friday. If you want to talk to one of our attorneys, we've got our attorneys available. If you want to talk to me, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, Cody Barbo. Let me know that you tuned into the podcast today, and I'll probably accept your connection request.
That'd be great. And with that, we can end here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Niki.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. I hope this conversation inspired you to take control and plan for the inevitable to protect yourself and those you leave behind. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at digitallegacypodcast.com. Remember, life is full of surprises. What happens after you die shouldn't be. So keep your passwords safe and your playbook up to date.